Imagine you're sitting down for the absolute hardest exam of your life. Next to you is a competitor who, within literal seconds, doesn't just read the questions, it cross-references decades of case law, obscure statutes, and every legal precedent ever recorded, instantly spitting out a highly accurate, perfectly formatted legal analysis. Or picture a system right now diagnosing a super rare illness by instantly comparing a single patient's scans against millions of global medical records. I mean, it sounds completely unbeatable, right? Well, welcome to this explainer. Today, we are exploring the ultimate matchup of our modern era, AI versus human intelligence. It's a showdown that is absolutely dominating our headlines and our boardrooms. But to truly understand who holds the real advantage here and what this actually means for our future, we really need to look past all the surface-level hype. Okay, let's dive into this because there is a massive paradox staring us right in the face. If large language models are so incredibly sophisticated that they can write complex Python code or casually pass medical exams, why do they so frequently just completely fail at basic human nuance? Like, why can an AI optimize a massive global supply chain, yet entirely miss the punchline of a simple joke or hallucinate these bizarre made-up facts with total, absolute confidence? It brings up a really profound curiosity. Are these models actually becoming smarter than us? Or are we making the crucial mistake of comparing two fundamentally different kinds of intelligence? To figure out how this showdown really plays out, we've got to pop the hood and examine the underlying mechanics of how both of these minds actually operate. So let's set the baseline. What actually is intelligence? Well, it's so much broader than just raw computation or pulling up data. It's the ability to learn, to reason, adapt, create, make complex decisions, and truly navigate a world that is highly unpredictable. For us humans, cognition is this beautifully messy, organic process. We are constantly drawing from our physical environment, our social interactions, and our deeply ingrained survival instincts. It's this multifaceted, deeply connected type of intelligence that lets us build societies and navigate super complex moral gray areas. But machine intelligence? It approaches this entire concept from a completely different, heavily structured direction. Now, as we know, AI doesn't actually understand concepts. It doesn't have a subjective, lived experience of the world. At its absolute core, it is just a remarkably sophisticated, probabilistic pattern matching engine. It navigates these vast spaces of data just to predict the most statistically likely output. So when an image model generates a picture, it isn't pulling from an active imagination, it's mathematically mapping relationships between pixels across billions of training parameters. It literally needs to analyze millions of examples, like 10 million photos of cats, just to predict the most likely answer of what a cat looks like. It is incredibly powerful at synthesizing information, for sure, but its absolute hard limitation is that it remains strictly bound by the statistical probabilities of its training data. And this brilliantly illustrates the contrast with human cognition. Researchers often call our superpower zero-shot learning. We possess this absolutely extraordinary ability to learn a concept from just a single, highly limited example and instantly apply it to a totally weird, novel situation. We don't need a dataset of 10,000 iterations to grasp a new abstract idea. We innately get context, we can read the room, we grasp the unspoken rules, and most importantly, we generate entirely new ideas that totally defy existing patterns. I mean, think about it. From imagining the wheel, to the airplane, to the architecture of the internet itself, human progress is entirely driven by imagining possibilities that have zero precedent in any historical dataset. All right, so let's put these two totally different architectures head to head. Round one is all about speed. And frankly, this round is a total blowout. When it comes to raw processing power and data retrieval, machine intelligence is operating on a completely different physical plane. An AI can parse a decade of super complex corporate case law, extract all the relevant clauses, and summarize the findings in the exact amount of time it takes us to pour a cup of coffee. Our human biological hardware just simply isn't built for that kind of brute force, raw computational throughput. So, for sheer brute force, processing, and synthesizing massive piles of data, AI easily takes round one. The machine takes the early lead on the scorecard. But let's move right along to round two, creativity. Now, we have all seen AI generate stunning visuals, compose wild music, and draft compelling narratives. It is an extraordinary remix engine, perfectly capable of blending styles and concepts. But we have to ask, where does true creativity actually come from? It's more than just mashing up existing data points in novel ways. When humans create, we are drawing from our lived experiences, our personal stakes, our dreams, and genuine emotional depths. We inject actual meaning, intention, and vulnerability into our work. We create things that resonate simply because they stem from the human condition. and that is something a mathematical model literally cannot replicate. So, while AI is an incredibly powerful brainstorming assistant, true imagination and the generation of real meaning secure the point for humans here. We are tied up 1-to-1. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how it frames round 3, which centers on emotions. The distinction here is absolutely vital. AI is highly capable of simulated empathy. It can easily analyze the sentiment of your text prompt and generate a perfectly structured, comforting response by predicting the right empathetic words. But simulated empathy carries zero genuine stakes. A machine identifying a happy face is miles away from a human actually feeling joy. We experience real physical and psychological states, paralyzing fear, profound grief, overwhelming love. And those stakes form the entire foundation of our moral judgments and our ability to build deep, trusting relationships. AI just maps the pattern of human emotion. Humans actually bear the weight of it. And that fundamental difference in emotional stakes gives humans the clear, undeniable edge in emotional and social intelligence. That's another point for humanity. 2-to-1, we take the lead. Which brings us to our final round, adaptability. Let's put both intelligences into completely new, totally unfamiliar environments. This is the true test of intelligence, how you handle situations totally outside of your prior experience. Humans excel here. We rely on common sense, we transfer knowledge, and we naturally observe and pivot our strategies the second the rules of the game change. AI, however, is notoriously brittle in these edge cases. When confronted with inputs that deviate from its training data, it doesn't just struggle, it often fails catastrophically or hallucinates complete nonsense, purely because it lacks the generalized common sense to even recognize when it's gone off track. Humans decisively take the point for adaptability. So looking at this final scoreboard, humanity absolutely dominates. But wait, actually, scratch that. Let's pause the celebration for a second, because this entire framing, this whole idea of an us versus them competition, is actually a massive trap. Here is the big twist of this whole explainer. This isn't a competition at all. The most profound game-changing developments happening right now aren't about AI replacing us. They are about unprecedented synergy. AI is an extraordinary force multiplier for human expertise. Think about scientists using DeepMind's AlphaFold to solve the 50-year-old protein folding problem, literally accelerating drug discovery by decades. Or doctors in oncology using AI to flag microscopic calcifications in medical imaging that the human eye might easily miss, letting them intervene earlier and save lives. Or students using it to learn faster. In all of these cases, the machine isn't some autonomous hero. It's the ultimate collaborative tool. So the crucial point is that the true power lies right here, in this synthesis. Artificial intelligence brings the raw compute, the sheer velocity to process massive data sets, find hidden statistical correlations, and speed up our iterations. But humans, we provide the compass. We provide the vital context, the ethical constraints, the empathy, and the real-world common sense to know which problems are actually worth solving in the first place. The machine gives us the speed, but human intelligence determines the trajectory. Which leaves us with a completely different, much more exciting perspective to take away today. Instead of worrying about some hypothetical sci-fi showdown, the single most important question we can ask right now is one of collaboration. How can we harness this incredible computational engine to elevate our own capabilities? How can you use it to eliminate the friction in your own daily workflows, freeing you up to focus purely on the high-level strategy, the creative leaps, and the human connections that matter most? That is the real frontier we are exploring together. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and keep questioning what becomes